It is Flames Unfiltered. Kyle is back from Calgary, and I cannot wait to hear the stories today. Kyle, did you survive?
I think so. I mean, I just got back today. Well, thanks. I mean, spending all that money to go west and witnessing a shutout win for your favorite team, definitely is good. Makes it worth it, right?
Could you have had a better game? I mean, seriously, could you have had a better game?
No, I couldn't have had better company. Couldn't have had a better game. Could have bought a cooler sweater while I was there. I actually like the off-color NHL gear you can buy now.
Yeah, I don't know why this sounds crazy because I'm sure some Irish people will yell at me or something. I'm not a fan of the green St. Patrick stuff. I don't know. I'm just
it's just so overdone, right? I mean, it's a cool initiative. Yeah, it doesn't suit all the teams.
But I like that. I know the NFL does a ton of stuff too and different things, and I like it. I like that. Some of them are pretty darn cool. But I'm jealous, man. I'm a little bitter with you. I am.
Yeah, and I was bitching you out because we're getting on a little later than normal. But I left Edmonton this morning. I was up at 4 a.m. in Edmonton. Left at 5 to go to the airport. Caught a flight at 6. 4.5 hour flight to Toronto. Had 2 hours there, then 2 hours from Toronto to Moncton.
Oh wow!
And I lost 3 hours along the way. So I'm actually pretty in my brain. It's earlier than it actually is, but that could make work complicated. Might even make the podcast complicated, but we're going to find out.
I don't know. I don't know. I was waiting for you to rub it in on me today and tell me how much fun you had and tell me all the guys you ran into and all the discussions. And I'm bitter. I'm jealous. So far,
well, I mean, I didn't really run into a whole lot of people at the Dome. I mean, I was doing all kinds of stuff out there. There's a lot of hiking and a lot of traveling around. Yeah. Spent some time in Banff. So that was all really cool. But it was basically, we were out for a nice dinner, then straight to the Dome for the game, and it was such a. I barely even took any pictures because I was just glued to the game, right?
Yeah.
And it was a hell of a game to watch. I mean, I saw them in Montreal, and Dustin Wolf played really well in that game too back in November. But this game here, there was the crossbar and post, I believe. Sam Bennett breakaway.
That's save. Oof.
No, he's just so calming and steady.
I got a question before we talk about the game. So this is not going to happen. So this is super hypothetical. So people don't trash me on Twitter for this. But if we were to get Sam Bennett back, how happy would you be? I'd be pumped.
I never really wanted to let him go. I mean, I don't know that he ever would have figured it out in Calgary, unfortunately.
I don't know.
But
I don't know. Sometimes he's probably a poster child for fresh start, right? I mean,
well, but so many players are like that nowadays, right? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Dylan Cousins in Buffalo, for example.
Yeah.
He could be the next one who we could be looking at a fresh start. So I don't know. I mean, I never wanted him to go. I actually met him in Columbus back in 2019. He's a great guy, super, super friendly,
really?
and has that, that kind of that tool set that every team kind of covets. So, I still miss him. I mean, I think about some of the hits he led on people. I think about his playoff performances. Guys like that, he may never really became the high end scorer we wanted him to in Calgary. He's certainly doing a pretty good job of it in Florida, but
he's a force.
I miss him.
I do too.
Yeah, oh yeah,
I do. And I know there's some Flames fans that'll mock me for this, but yeah, I miss him too. And I'm glad you're on my side on this one since I'm already pissed at you. So
I had a Sam Bennett jersey, not a game wear, but I had a really nice Reebok Sam Bennett jersey that I actually gave to. Yeah, I gave it to my friend Jocelyn in Calgary. Her and Rob, really good friends of mine, because their son's name's Bennett. I thought that would be appropriate. But yeah, no, I think most people, unless they're lying themselves, would miss him. So I guess what are we talk about for games? I mean, obviously the one I was at, but that monstrosity before.
Let's talk a little bit about the Nashville game, the game that the team snaps their 8-game road losing streak. They were 10-3-1 at home, and they can't win 8 in one game out of 8 and on the road, and they finally get one and they score 4 goals for the first time in
28 games or something.
28. I have it here.
Something foolish. We need to talk. Yeah, 25
straight games, and they finally break that, snap that, and get a win over Nashville 4-3. And this is not the most entertaining game. A Braden Pahal goal, hey. I'm happy for him there.
Great shot too. Nice patience. Really nice patience on that shot.
Kadri with another goal in this one. He's been a little bit on a tear here lately, a hot streak. Rooney gets a goal. That was good to see. And Huberdeau is on a hot streak
really
too.
good.
Talk a little bit about that later in the show, but yeah, he gets one. And all in all, just a good win. They get out on and beat up on a Nashville team that's just oof. I don't know if I have a word for the struggles they're going through right now with
I think it's actually incredible for the players they had in the summer. And we talked about this last week going into the game about, how it'd be interesting based on the trajectory of both teams. And yeah, I mean, there's no bigger surprise of a team falling flat this year than the Nashville Predators.
I am surprised. I don't know that there is.
Like the Rangers are surprising because they're only a game over 500.
That's what I was.
But they're not. They're not bottom
of
the league.
No, but I had way higher hopes in the Rangers making a freaking I was talking not. I was thinking they're potential President's Cup champions, right? But I never thought that I thought Nashville would be a end of the road playoff team. I don't know. I can't think of and the reason I say that is I cannot think of the last team that brought on a bunch of older guys, and we should know more than anybody in Calgary because this has been our status quo for a decade here of bringing in a bunch of old guys and expecting them all to gel and work perfectly, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, 100%.
Is that a fair comment? I feel like it really works.
I think that there's a couple things that kind of conspire against them. The mix of players not being, and it's hard. You can't say enough of what it means for a star player to go from one team to another. It doesn't always translate like you'd hope. Different systems, different line mates, different climate, different routine. There's so many things go into it, but I think a combination of all these new faces and then the fact, and I think I said this in our last show, their core is just starting to age out. Yeah. Nashville's competitive window is closing. They tried to force it back open. With these acquisitions.
Penguins, right?
Well, exactly. Penguins are the best example of it, and Calgary did it for far too long with the Gillen Kiprusoff 1.2, right? Father Time's going to win. And you might be able to bang out another good season with the right moves, but man, it's tough when that core starts to move on. And like I said, Detroit did it for years and years, 25 straight years of playoffs or something crazy like that.
Yeah, go with 25.
I'm not sure anybody will ever touch that streak again. How the hell
I don't know.
Could you?
It's going to be really tough in the cap world because we flip over teams a lot quicker, and which is a great thing, right? For fan bases, it keeps people more engaged, right? That's what was Bettman's plan, and I'm super happy that he had that foresight to know that hey, we keep teams turning over in the playoffs, we're going to have more excitement, more success, and more money.
We're going to have more teams. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you need that. Yeah. I guess what I'll say about the Nashville game is I thought it was a real gutsy kind of win. I really enjoyed watching the game, and I thought they were down and out a couple times, and they proved me wrong, which was why, this is my segue, this is why I was quite taken aback by how awful they were against Tampa. They laid an egg. And Tampa's a strong team, don't get me wrong, but that was a tough one to watch.
They were 0 for 3 on the penalty kill just when they started to get it going again. Yep. That game was a freaking train wreck, and it started off fine. Honestly, after 2 periods, we're 4-3. We came back with goals from Kadri and Zary, and I was like, hey, I don't know about if we're going to come back and win this, but we could get, it could be a strong push in the third period, right? Yep. And the wheels completely fell off. Completely fell off, and it was a defensive disaster. I mean, Uyghur was not. It was probably his worst game of the year. Miramanov was awful.
Yep, we haven't seen him since.
And might not. And Ball for a while. And Ball and Anderson struggled that night too. I mean,
everybody struggled, right?
Everybody did, right? Everybody did.
It's a shame too because that Kadri goal might be. It certainly is a contender for goal of the year, not unlike the goal of the year candidate he threw up on Saturday too, but.
This goal, I had to laugh. I saw an X, and I didn't pick it for the X factor. Maybe should have. It's going to be an honorable mention today. Razzle Dazzle put on there. If McDavid scores that Kadri goal, it's on repeat highlight all season long, and he's right. He's 100%. Totally right.
100. There's nobody in the right mind could possibly deny that fact. Same. Well, realistically, same as the Kadri goal on Saturday. If that's McDavid, it's being jammed in their throats too. Oh, interestingly though, remember the goal against the Penguins last year? The Calgary scored.
Yes, that
I was there. I was there for that. I was there for the one on Saturday. I could have gone on Thursday to the game. I was actually in Edmonton that night. I probably should have done that game too. Oh, yeah. That's the longer part of the story. The person I was with at the Flames game is actually a diehard Oilers fan, but God love her and God knows I do. She actually wore this hat for me at the Flames game. So, yeah. So that just complicates things further for me in my personal life, but that's all right.
Do you want to talk about personal life here? So I got a question for you.
I don't know. Will that increase our listenership or just tank it? I really don't know, but no. I talk enough with my own shit as it is, but it was a fantastic trip.
I do have a question though. I do have a question. So do you want your significant other to be a fan of the same team as you, or is it oftentimes even more fun if they're a fan of your rival?
Oh man, that's funny because you know what? I actually said this to her over the weekend. I was like, you know what? It actually is kind of fun that she's no other fan because she gets right into it. Like this isn't just a girl's like, oh, like I like to watch hockey. Like she actually follows the players and stuff. Like she's good with hockey.
So since I found out you're with a lovely lady, I'm going to let you off the hook about the comment you made in your first sentence about the company couldn't be better. I'm thinking, well, shit, he just fucking sold me out there. Like I wouldn't be better company. But now that I find out it's a young lady, like then,
that's hilarious.
Now you're off the hook now. Okay,
that's good. I didn't mean to insult you though. I mean, we're still going to do that. We've talked about this at length, and I think the easiest thing to do is do something in Winnipeg again, just because it's closer for you as well.
I think. Or we can go all out and go to Vegas, or something. I really honestly I want to go.
Well, did I tell you about that guy in the game worn jersey community? He wants my Miromanov jersey, right? And I don't want to sell it because he played for the they play for the Wildcats, right, here in Moncton. So, but he's friends with Daniel Miromanov, so he basically, I forget his offer, it was like a bunch of cash American and then tickets to a Knights game. And at last I knew it was a standing offer, so I might have to take him up on it.
You know, it's fun. It'll be fun, but I really think for us, I think we both need to go spend 5 days in Calgary and hit 2 games and spend some time in the city, visiting with people and having a little bit of fun in Calgary. I love going to Calgary.
Oh, it's the best. I love that city. I love the people. It's like I said on the weekend, it's kind of a home away from home. So yeah. At least as far as hockey goes.
So let's talk about this game you went to. Calgary wins 3-0. Hockey Night in Canada, a big game, a real fun game to watch. And Dustin Wolf gets his second shutout, I believe, 32 save shutout, his second of his career. And he looked good. He looked really, really good.
Yeah, well, and that he was just lights out. And again, the girl I was with kept saying the same thing. She's like, man, like he's really good. Like, and she was watching him in warm up, and I always get mesmerized by him doing like his crazy jumps. And we had a conversation about how his how his joints, knees, hips, all that'll hold up long term because he's so acrobatic. But I'm telling you right now, man, like I don't know. I know for a fact I've never seen a goaltender live with better lateral movement than him. Not even fucking close. But I don't know. Kiprusoff was really, really good laterally, like fantastic. But Wolf is just so quick.
Yeah,
like he's so like I don't know. Kiprusoff, that's a difficult one because Wolf is just so fast in everything he does, but Kiprusoff was so smooth, sound
about everything.
Like he made it look so easy, whereas Wolf almost looks like the Energizer Bunny. Like he's
got to be that way with his size though, right? And I know we kind of vowed to like not rip on his size anymore because I've been a critic of him. I shouldn't say a critic, a skeptic. There's a better word, right? But you know what? I'm starting to believe now. And I wasn't really even a skeptic of his size. I just think goaltenders are just a really hard breed and really hard to determine who's going to be successful long-term, right? But the more I watch him and I'm not a goalie expert, but the more I watch how he squares up so quickly and how he's just mechanically so sound, I'm starting to believe that like, hey, I asked my level of thoughts that he's going to be a long-term success for the Flames goes up each day I watch him. And I know people were kind of critical of him last week after the game. Who they played that he kind of got shelled. I can't even remember. I kind of blocked it out of my mind. That was another bad game, but
I can't remember now either, but I remember the game.
I thought I'm actually going to defend him. And I've often criticized him probably too much, but I thought that really wasn't hung on him, and he kind of took the brunt of that. And I think it maybe pissed him off because boy, he came out with a vengeance Saturday night, and that save on Bennett at that key moment. And I've heard Kelly Rudy talk about it so many times about it's not how many saves you make, it's when you make them, and the importance of that save. And boy, did Dustin Wolf just save their bacon there, because that makes it 2-1, and that changes the whole complexion of that game.
Well, that was always, well, I would say really about Grant Fuhr, but even Mike Vernon, like that's how those guys made the living, right? It was the big save. It wasn't a 930 save percentage, mind you, different era. Yeah. You know, it was coming up when they had to, and I mean, Wolf was just, I don't know, his angles, or he plays them so well. Like those pucks hit the post for a reason.
Yep,
that's as close as we're going to get, because he, he like you said, like he's so sound, and he's such a pleasure to watch, and we're so lucky to have him. Spencer Knight said that post game too, and remember, Dustin Wolf was Spencer Knight's backup for the World Juniors for Team USA one year, right? So pretty wild to think about. Not that Spencer Knight's not a good goalie in his own right, but he didn't have a great game. The Coleman goal, he didn't even move; it just froze him.
Yeah.
And the Backlund goal too. I barely stepped to celebrate because I was shocked that went in.
I was shocked. I watched that one over. When I first saw it originally live, I was like, oh, okay. And then I watched the replay of it, and they kind of had a behind the net view of it, and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a stinker too. And I don't know. That game surprised me because Florida was coming off a 4-0 loss to Vancouver. So they put up 6 straight periods and no goals for the defending Stanley Cup champions. That's an oddity, and I think tonight they have, as we speak, don't they play Edmonton tonight? That ought to be a really, really good game. So, yeah, all in all, this might have been. Was it the best performance we've seen of the Flames this year? Probably. I think some people probably would argue with me a little bit, but I don't know. I was pretty impressed with this. And as we sit right now, I believe the Flames are in a playoff spot, albeit right on the end of one, but let's look here. Yeah, nope, they've fallen out of it now.
Yeah, I was going to say they're just out.
Vancouver's got that final spot. So
yeah, for now it'll change. Tonight, tomorrow, through the weekend.
We would actually, if you went with point percentage, we'd actually have a playoff spot. So
yeah, exactly. Just so happens that Vancouver's got 2 games in hand as part of the reason. But anyway,
yeah.
It's the other thing too is like I almost missed the Cgy goal. I wasn't really paying attention to that moment. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. You go. Where did you guys see it? Are you like, I'm gonna tell you something about me as a sports fan. When I go to a live game, whether it's being in Calgary or anywhere else, really, I pay to be in the lower bowl if I can. Now in Calgary, sometimes it's tough, and the second level's not bad. I won't go sit up in the.
That's where the old sport checks out.
Ooh, I can't go sit up there. I don't handle that very well. But I pay for better seats simply because, like, I don't go as much as I would like to, and when I do, I want to see it good.
Yeah, we were in 201, which is pretty good seats. I mean, the dome. Yeah, the dome's usually any seats are decent seats at the very least. But
yes,
yeah, we get distracted by some crowd interaction, some Christmas BS. I forget what the hell it was, and I did see it, but like I just turned my head as Cgy stole the puck, and I was like, oh shit! And then he just turned Knight inside out, and
at least it wasn't the wave. God, that pisses me off.
I didn't participate. I do not participate in the wave. I do not like the wave. I did not do the wave.
Don't like it.
No wave for this guy.
No. So let's talk about the call ups and the call downs and how social media reacted to that. As
they're just, I'll sum it up real quick. They're paper transactions.
Yeah,
you know it. I know it. Also, since you've brought those people up in terms of the players, Jacob Pelletier had his best game as an AHLer on Saturday. Darren Haynes did a masterful job explaining why on his X account, as Darren often does. Pelletier was phenomenal.
Well, let's talk about that in the X Factor, because
I can tell by the look in your face you're about to do the X Factor.
It has to do with Jacob Pelletier. So here it is. It comes from, and I put this up because I kind of wanted to argue with this guy. Western Hockey Scout Pete Hughes, he says, I'd hate to see Jacob Pelletier sent down for 2 reasons. He's been especially good defensively, and Stromgren is tearing it up, getting more ice time with Kearns. Calgary has created a bottleneck in the AHL because they are so reluctant to give young guys a chance. Now, I'll comment on this, and then I want to hear your take on this. When I read this, I was reading the first part, and I'm like, okay, yes, I would agree. I like what I'm seeing from Pelletier right now. I don't think right now is a good time to send him down. I would agree. Sure, I'll take just Stromgren getting more high-end ice time. He's been really good. But here's the part I want to argue about. The Flames are reluctant to give young guys a chance. I disagree. This team has been given the young crew more chances in the last 18 months than we did in the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Agree with me or disagree?
I do think, and maybe it's just how I'm interpreting this, but I do think that they have created a bit of a bottleneck only insofar as they've actually gotten good at developing players. So there are only so many What's that?
That is what we want. What is this?
Oh, yeah. But I think other teams work them in more progressively. The Flames have only recently gotten good at giving guys a chance.
I disagree. I think we don't follow other teams like we follow our team, and they have bottlenecks in their prospects too. We can't have 4 lines of young players. We have to have an intermix of young players with veterans. So, you have to have that intermix. And I know I'm old school, and me and you have fought about this before, but I think we're actually giving people chances now pretty fairly, I would say.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's a few things that go into it though. So having the farm team in Calgary, having a better developmental system for these players. I mean, even bringing guys like Mike Stone to work with defensive prospects, for example. We have a lot better younger players because we only used to have a few, or only really developed a few, by my memory or my assessment anyway. So now when you look at this team and you see like if somebody gets hurt, and hopefully nobody else does, there's a couple guys we'd immediately have in mind for call up, and it's not just to say, hey, we need a body. It's like, hey, we need a body. We know you can contribute. And that's what we're seeing now from Pelletier. Dewar's been good since he came back.
I think so too. I think Walker Dewar's been really good.
I love his skating. It's been a big help to the team because they had to get quicker. And unfortunately, because he's one of the most skilled players on the team and he's currently injured, although he did practice today, Andrei Kuzmenko, I think
I left practice early.
Yeah, and I don't even know what to do with him anymore because he's been so slow when he's played and has produced no offense. And
I say mean things once in a while. I say mean things on this show once in a while. And I surely don't want anybody hurt. But did anybody, when we read the tweet that he left practice early today, did anybody go, "Oh shoot, he's going to be out"?
No, that's you're not wishing harm on anybody. Let's be clear.
Oh no, I'm not at all. I'm just saying that
nobody. Yeah.
How does he fit in the lineup right now at all? Anyways, I really don't even know how he fits in the lineup. Nor if we're talking like we've been talking about, hey, you earn your right to be on this team right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to let younger guys in if they've earned that right. How do you look right now at Pelletier or Dewar or one of those guys and say, hey, we're going to pull Kuzmenko back in? And I know people are saying, well, we need to showcase him to trade him. I don't know that I think the showcasing is done. I really do. I don't think this guy is a tradable asset. I don't think he's a signable asset, and I don't think we'll see him in the NHL anymore after this year.
Which is amazing. I mean, I know he played with
Pedersen. He can be dynamic as hell. I mean,
and when he came to Calgary, he alone made the Lindholm trade look good there for a while.
I know.
Some of his goals against St. Louis, I remember he was lights out, but the reality is at this point, I suspect he will be traded for a 5th round pick or something before the deadline.
You think we'll get that? Huh?
We'll get something because people know his skill set. He can go somewhere and help the power play. He's one of those guys that he's going to be nomadic, and I think he's going to be nomadic until he's out of the league, like you just said. And it's unfortunate because I had high hopes for him this year. I loved his game in Calgary, and I thought he was kind of the dynamic piece that we needed because we're not a dynamic team other than Connor Zari's got some off the chart skills, but he hasn't really finished consistently yet. As one example, but Kuzmenko was one of those vets who I thought this guy's going to pop 20 or 30, maybe 30. And he's just been. I hate to say it because we want to speak respectfully on this show as we do about anybody or anything.
Yeah.
But he's been abysmal, and I suspect he'd be the first one to tell you that he's been absolutely terrible.
I think he would say that too, and I'm not saying this to be mean to him or anything. I'm just stating the fact that it worries me. Like, I don't understand why. Is he hurt that bad? Is there something we don't know? Because I hate to just like say this guy just doesn't work hard, because some nights I feel like that, but I don't know if he's not working hard because he can't or
look at Vladar this year. Vladar when he came back from hip surgery, been way better. He's got
so much offensive talent. I can't believe we're not seeing it more on a consistent basis, right?
Yep. Sean Monahan, how many injuries did he play through? And we saw how that hampered him. And then you start to hear about the nature. It's a distinct possibility, but ultimately based on the play of the others and the team's play, I hate to say it, but without him, largely because people like Pelche, who has been excellent on the penalty kill, for example, guys like that are carving out roles that we need as well. And Kuzmenko's only role in the NHL is offense. If he's not producing offense, he's not producing anything else, right?
That's right.
And that's what leaves us in this situation. So I don't know when we see him back in the lineup. And if and when we do, I hope it's a player we saw last winter, because the one we've seen this year is, struggling mightily.
Yeah. Jonathan Huberdeau turned into a points guy here. He's picking up points on a nightly basis. I loved his quote this week when he says, "Hey, put me back," or he's back with Kadri. He says, "Oh, you tried everybody else. I'm back to the first one." The one thing, as much as I've been frustrated with him throughout his time in Calgary, I see a solid work ethic, and I'm happy to finally starting to see consistent results from Jonathan Huberdeau. Yeah.
Oh, it's been a really nice change. I mentioned on the previous show, like his board play has been a lot better, which is what he was always known for. Potting goals, surprisingly enough, but I think a lot of that's to do with Pospisil out there making room for them as well. If he's going to keep doing that and Kadri keeps scoring goals like he has, and Huberdeau's hitting the score sheet almost on a game-to-game basis, we're going to take it. The problem with Huberdeau is that we've always, whether we want to admit it or not, judge him against the contract he was given. And we all expected we get a 75-point player, in Calgary, even though he had 115 in Florida.
And we should. God darn it, it's frustrating that we don't. But
if he hits, 65 points this year, I think that'd be great.
That's huge for this team.
Yeah, and I think he's a really good player in the room. Obviously the relationship between him and Pelche is pretty special.
Yeah.
That's one example, but it's nice to see him hitting the score sheet regularly. And a lot of people, Mike Gould, Darren Haynes, others, Wes Gilbertson, a lot of guys who are fairly prominent in the Calgary media have commented on how much better he's been of late. And it's a great story. It's a really good story because nobody goes anywhere to fail, whether it's a relationship, a job, whatever. But we all have cold stretches in life and bad play and whatever else has been hampering him. And it was a huge change. We talked about before, the guy fucking moved across the continent to a much colder climate, totally different team, totally different system, a team that was in transition, no less.
They signed him prior to him ever being in Calgary, and just a lot of expectations go along with that contract.
Well, it was such a reactionary move. And I saw somebody today, I think it was World Hockey Report saying, and rightfully so, saying, it's amazing that the Flames fan base still loves Tkachuk based on how he left. Well, how he left, he told them he wasn't going to re-sign in a year. Yeah, and he was the first player ever to sign a deal as a sign and trade, not a trade and sign.
Yeah,
he signed the deal with Brad Treliving, which paved the way to say, hey, here's the player you want with the long-term contract you want.
Yep.
So us, and I've always said Weegar has been, the real centerpiece of the trade for Calgary to this point.
Often forgotten that he was part of that, right?
Yeah, so it was like, Weegar and Huberdeau, and now it's like Weegar, and lately Huberdeau's like more maybe here. We got a scoring winger out of it finally, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah, no, I've been super happy.
I'm just happy for him. He's gonna feel like shit the way the first two seasons went, right?
Gosh. The one thing I do look at though now, and I look at this lineup, and I really question the defense of late. And in the first part of the year, I was really high on our defense, and they were really outperforming what I expected them to. Right now, I sit and I look at it, and I still like the Ball Anderson pairing, but now it's kind of got shaken up with Miromanov falling out of the lineup. Hanley's up in. We got Bean with Pahal. I love what Weegar and Pahal are both having very, very good years. Bean is growing on me as the games go by. I feel like he's getting better and better.
He had a really strong game against Florida too. He was really good.
And honestly, I thought Joel Hanley has been halfway solid too. I rarely get upset with him. Do you get upset with him?
Well, we say this about televised games, and I always watch a game I've even attended afterwards, even if it's just the highlights, because it's just a different perspective, right? I don't remember Joel Hanley at all in that game, other than being recognized for playing his 200th game at that shortly after Uyghur's recognized for playing his 500th.
Is that what we want from him, though?
Well, it's such a cliche, but it's true. Yeah, you don't want to notice guys like that, and I didn't notice him one fucking bit.
No,
and I thought Jake Bean's his gap control in the defensive zone was really good. Like he was stepping up at the right times. He was steering players into the corner and taking them out of the play. Like I'm glad he's a regular. I've wanted him to become a regular, and they kind of had the Barry Bean rotation for so long. Like, and I'm okay with rotating D, especially if it's back-to-back games. But it's like, I think he deserves a longer look, and I'm glad he's getting it.
Yeah. What do we do with Miromanov now? You know, he seems like he tries to be so offensive, but yet he gets zero offensive results. And I feel like he's kind of lost right now out there. And I'm interested to see how this progresses with him being out of the lineup now for 2 straight.
Yeah, he'll get a chance. Well, just one, yeah. But I mean, from what I saw, the line rushes today,
he's not going to be back in.
I don't think he's playing against the Bruins. Now, he will get back in. He has a unique skill set. He's a bit of an enigmatic player. But again, with the rebuilding team, with players that are developing, there's going to be moments where that kind of stuff happens, right? Like they just have a really, really bad game. Because Miromanov started off slow, had a really strong 10, 12 game stretch alongside Uyghur, which probably most guys could have a strong stretch playing with a guy as good as Uyghur, but falling off a bit. I don't see him back on until maybe late in the week. Yeah. But I think we'll see him in again before Christmas. Just say, okay, like we gave you a reset. Let's see where your game's at, right?
No,
because he was a big part of that. He was the piece they brought back from the Noah Hannafin trade. So they want to give him a fair shake, and we'll see what happens.
I want to get your take quick on the goaltender shuffle, as Vladar has a out day today with a lower body injury, which has not been disclosed at all. It sounded like he was on the ice today, though, so it sounds very minor. But Devin Cooley gets called up. Yep. And your thoughts on that and where this kind of plays out? And
I think because the contract situation by the deadline, I think Vladar is going to be dealt.
Yeah.
I think up until probably late January, I don't know we'll see Devin Cooley again. I don't think we'll see him in a game at least because we haven't needed him, and the Wranglers have been so strong with him, right? But because he's the guy they committed to a 2-year deal, right? Devin Cooley.
Do you feel comfortable with a Wolf Cooley pairing?
Why the hell wouldn't I at this point?
I'm just asking. Asking.
Well, but that's my honest answer. Is what there's no reason not to be. Cooley is very limited NHL experience, but is any locker room would welcome a guy that positive for one. But he's been the best goaltender in the AHL.
I think he's more than a Jamie McLennan, and that's not a rip on Jamie McLennan. I think Jamie McLennan he's one of my favorite guys to listen to. Number one, his book was my favorite book I've ever read, and he was just the perfect backup goalie, right? He'd go in and give you the minutes you needed and be successful. And I think Devin Cooley is thought of by this organization as more than just that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason he got the contract he got, and he's been proving it in the AHL so far. So. I think a Cooley Wolf tandem could really fun and could push each other, much like Wolf and Vladar have. But I think Vladar is going to be a really important trade piece based on his season so far at the deadline because he doesn't have a contract beyond this year, right?
Nope.
So
Zane,
we shall see.
Zane Perek doesn't make the World Juniors roster. Surprising to you?
Well, he didn't make it initially. Then because of an injury, he got a chance, right?
Yeah, he got an invite to camp and was told that he would not make the final selections. So,
obviously, Team Canada has a certain image in mind for their team, right? I think I talked about this before. Like, maybe it doesn't fit the mold, the kind of defenseman they want for this particular variation of Team Canada. That's the only thing I can figure. Maybe they consider him something of a defensive liability, which again, I'm just speculating. I don't know. I mean, hell of a prospect, but unfortunately, he will not be making it. So, were you surprised by that?
No, just basically because he wasn't on the first selection. I really like what he brings to the table. I do think that I know his attitude is an offensive attitude, and he's a very offensive-minded defenseman, and I don't dislike that.
Yep.
But I think he needs to mature a little bit in the fact that I have to take care of these responsibilities. And when I take care of these responsibilities, these offensive responsibilities will come even easier. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, they always take longer to develop, right? So
yeah. And he's young.
Important.
He's young. Like he's really young. So I have.
Well, again, I go back to the fall. People wanted to get that 9-game tryout. I'm like, no, there's no need of that. Makes no sense.
Boy, he's way early. Yeah. Bruce Devich might be more ready for that than Parekh, and I'm not.
Oh, I think he is, and he's just he's really gone on a heater in the American League recently.
Just gradually, he struggled early in the year from everybody I've talked to, but he's just gradually matured into that role and learned the professional game, which is a totally different game than what they're seeing in junior hockey, and he's been progressing very, very well.
Yeah, no, he's been fantastic, and it's interesting to me long term. I don't know how this is going to play out, but Parekh, Brstevich, Etienne Mornin, Henry Muse, who's been unreal. Mm-hmm. Jameson's another one. Like, there's so many prospects that we're not going to have 4 or 5 50, 60-point defensemen. You know what I mean? So some of these guys, I got to believe eventually are going to be moved elsewhere, but that's a ways off. So let's just enjoy the riches we have for now.
It's a good problem to have because you know what? Statistics show that not everybody pans out, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
This week, the Flames have Boston to town tomorrow night, which is Tuesday night. Boston is going to be a pissed off hockey team, although they did just beat Vancouver in a pretty entertaining game on Saturday night. And then Ottawa comes into town Thursday night, and then the lovely Saturday afternoon game as Chicago comes to the Dome on Saturday.
Brick ball. Brick ball.
Oh, yeah. And then we have a 1-week Christmas break, and the Flames resume play again in San Jose on December 28th. So we will enjoy the week break. We will have a show next week. We'll be recording next Monday for a Tuesday release, talking about the Boston, Ottawa, Chicago games, all at home, as we have a big streak of games at home right before Christmas. So important points if you want to stay in this playoff race. It's going to be so tight. So every point matters at this stage, even. So
yeah, we're gonna have Elias Lindholm visiting Calgary, who's
it's his first
really
time back.
Yeah, and Zadorov as well will be back. Lindholm has not at all performed how anybody expected or hoped in Boston, so we'll see what kind of game he has.
Does Lindholm get booed? Does Lindholm get booed?
Based on the return we got in that trade, I hope not. I'm not booing him, man. I'm not booing him.
That might be the quote of the week right there.
Yeah, right. But the thing about these 3 games is the Bruins have been hot and cold. They're a team. Their best players are getting long in the tooth. Like there's certain Pasternak, Marchand for sure, is still very effective for sure. But the Bruins, Blackhawks, and Senators should be very winnable games. But Ottawa's been a bit of a heater lately.
Really,
finally,
good. They're in a playoff spot.
Good for them, man. Good for them. We got to touch on this though, because you bring this up very regularly and with good reason.
Oh,
what the hell do you make of Terry Pegula visiting with the Sabres? I think he went to Montreal to visit with them prior to their game. 10 in a row. Now again, this is ridiculous because I live on the East Coast and I pay no attention to everything that matters to me is in the West, right? Everything. So I can't make sense of. They're not going to fire anybody. They're not going to trade anybody.
What is
a rah-rah speech going to do?
I don't know. I've said this before about the Buffalo Sabres. This organization needs a giant enema, and I'm like, shit, they've had 5 enemas and it hasn't worked. So I don't know really what you say anymore other than let's just freaking win. What do you say?
But I'm going to be very interested to see what the response is. Now, I like Lindy Ruff as a coach, although
so do I.
Statistically, historically rather, coaches returning to a franchise don't typically do as well as they did the first time around.
It hasn't happened that often, has it?
No, Ted Nolan didn't have the same success. Now, obviously, very different teams, and Ted Nolan's a fantastic coach as well. Same thing with Lindy Ruff. Daryl Sutter had a lot of success the second go around in Calgary up until he didn't the following season. But again, major personnel changes. So I don't know what the answer is there, but it blows my mind that they're willing to stand pat, because I'd be looking to the GM. That's
the reason
that's where I'd start.
The reason this franchise has been so bad for so long is they just went through a ton of really bad GMs.
Yep, but they've hung on to this one for so long.
Experienced bad GMs.
Yeah,
there's no other way to put it, right? They have had some players that have really underachieved, and I do believe there was a culture, a lot like the Edmonton culture, where winning was okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm not talking about the Edmonton culture now, but back when they had Nugent Hopkins and Yakupov and Draisaitl younger, like they were okay with losing, right? They were okay with it, and a lot of changes have happened since then, and a giant attitude change. But
yeah. So I don't know. It's a shame, because Buffalo's got a very storied history. It's a great hockey town. It's one of the closer markets to where I am. But I just don't see what a speech is going to do. I just don't see it. Any organization I've ever worked in, when you're struggling this much, some kind of a shakeup's going to happen, and you can only have so many speeches and so many closed door meetings before it's like, okay, somebody's got to go or something's got to change. And and it's a shame, because no fan base deserves that, and certainly not Sabres fans. So for any Sabres fans that listen to this show, and I know one in particular who may, my heart goes out to you. It sucks to be in that position, and hopefully something turns around.
I've said it before on the show. I've always kind of had a soft spot for the Sabres. I love that market. That market stands behind their team, and they have I believe they still have the strongest television viewership market in the U.S. for hockey. So,
wow. That's
hey,
wild.
Before we go, I got to show you something quick, and then we're going to move on. Remember a couple weeks ago on the show we talked about 2009 Stanley Cup playoffs, Calgary, Chicago.
Yes.
When we got done recording, I was thinking about that series, and I remembered that a friend of mine who was a linesman in the NHL, who did that game that night, grabbed me the puck.
Oh, cool.
That Jerome McGinley scored that night.
Very cool.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Nice piece of memorabilia.
I forgot that I had. I knew I had it. I just, when we were talking about that night, I didn't think about it. And after the show, I was like, I'm going to show Kyle that. I don't think he knows I have that.
No, I had no idea. That's cool.
Let's go. Let's move on. You got to go play hockey, dude. You got to play hockey. You're busy. You're a busy man. I barely get an hour of your time all week, right?
That's okay. I'm back to my reality, for better or for worse. So.
Yeah, I saw something funny too. Flames dude put on X the other day, not tweeting until the Flames score more than 4 goals. We'll hear from him in a couple months. So
I saw that too, and I loved it. I'm so glad you remember. We should send him some flowers or something. Make sure he knows we still care about him.
Some ballsy tweet. Oh man.
Maybe they'll smoke Boston.
Let's see. Have a good week, Flames fans. We're back next week. Kyle and I, right before Christmas, we're gonna do it.
Woo! If I can find a Santa hat, I'll wear it. We'll make this.
I'll find one too. I'll drop one for my kids. But next Monday night, we're gonna record. We'll have it out Christmas Eve morning. I will release it and have it out. As you listen, as you drive to your friends and family for Christmas, right? So it'll be a holiday.
What would you rather hear more than our voices?
Exactly. A holiday episode, right, Kyle?
Meanwhile, our families will be like, where are you guys? We're recording. Priorities, God.
That's right. That's our priorities. All right, Flames fans, have a good week. Kyle's got to go play hockey. He's got to get some rest. Tough week in Calgary, but hey, we may need to fly him out again. They won 3-0. It was a hell of a game.
I'll go anytime you guys want.
All right, Flames fans, we're back next week. Have a good week.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Flames Unfiltered with Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis, your source for unfiltered Calgary Flames hockey talk. Keep it locked on flamesunfiltered.ca. Subscribe where you get all your podcasts to never miss an episode. Flames hockey talk every week, presented by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.